and welcome back to BullDodge, your favorite lacrosse show. We're presented by MLL California. If you're interested in their tryouts or just want to check them out on their website at www.madlax.com/California. I'm your host, Ryan Heydrich, alongside my good friend Kazimir Morawski. And with the 2013 season upon us, our mailbag is full with questions, so let's get right to it. First question comes from James in Colorado. Lola and Team USA played in the Champion Classic last week. Any thoughts?
Well, my biggest, despite losing, I thought that Loyola played really well. I thought that they did a lot of what they did last year. They got out in transition and scored early.
Exactly. I was impressed with the Greyhounds. You know, their balanced attack and offense should provide many headaches for their defenses. With the loss of Eric Lesby, there's kind of a question if they were going to be able to fill their offense. But I don't think there's a question after watching them play against Team USA.
Definitely. There's a guy out of the midfield named Phil Dobson for the Greyhounds who's big midi who can put up a lot of points. Who's one of those guys.
Exactly. Touching on another Greyhound midfielder, you look at Davis Butts. He's a senior out of Mass who just has a cannon, just blowing by shots past the USA goalies. And I was really impressed with his play.
Yeah, and moving on to Team USA, I thought Chaz Woodson had quite a day. I mean, call him the human highlight reel for a reason. He had some incredible goals on his way to a hat trick, and he broke a lot of Loyola's defenders' ankles.
Exactly. I was really impressed with Sam Bradman. You know, he was the MVP of the game, and a guy who comes from D3 and the LXM Tour, which is still trying to kind of get its wheels going in the lacrosse world. So I was really impressed with what he displayed and what he provided for the LXM Tour.
Mm-hmm. And our next mailbag question comes from Joe in Nevada. He says, Syracuse rattled off 2 wins against Hofstra and Holy Cross last weekend. Do these preseason wins mean anything?
Well, I think it's important to win every time you step on the field. I mean, if you step on the field and lose, you shouldn't walk away happy with it. And I think that Syracuse, with their 15-10 win over Hofstra, I think that they're ready to bounce back from the disappointing 2012 season.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that I picked Syracuse as one of my sleeper teams this year. And I thought with a 16-6 win over Holy Cross, they definitely solidified that.
Exactly. I was impressed. It's a great chance to get the younger guys involved for Syracuse, and I know they got a lot of their players in, which is nice. But they have to be disappointed that Nicky Galasso didn't suit up for them. Highly touted transfer comes in and misses his first scrimmage after kind of an injury-plagued career at Carolina. So it's kind of same story, different place for Galasso.
Yeah. And our next mailbag question comes from Travis in Florida. The MCLA season kicked off last weekend. What are your early reactions?
Well, I thought Texas State looked really impressive. They have a new head coach down there, and they came out and got him a victory over Baylor in their first win. And starting 1-0 is the best way to start. You always want to be undefeated.
Yeah. I was really impressed with Texas State's Harrison Parr. I thought he had a great game. He had a goal and 4 assists. He's out of the midfield for the Bobcats. He's a real threat, and I look for the Bobcats to do some damage in the LSA.
Exactly. Texas State is definitely a team to watch out for in the LSA. It's not the strongest conference down there. It's kind of wide open this year. Texas has a new coach. Texas State has a new coach. So it's kind of open up, and I think that as the season goes on, we'll definitely be able to pick out the winner in that conference. In other action, we had an MCLA scrimmage between Division II Concordia out of Irvine, California. They played UCLA, a MCLA Division I opponent, and they actually upset them. So I think that's a great win for Concordia, who continues to make a statement in the MCLA Division II, and as they try to progress not only to Greenville but deep into the tournament.
Yeah, a loss here can really not be good for UCLA. They've really struggled mightily in the SLC, and losing to a Division II team like Concordia really doesn't help them. Some other scores from the weekend include Stanford beating Santa Cruz 18-5 in a scrimmage. Houston beating Texas Tech 13-10, and Georgia Tech beating Kennesaw State 15-6.
Exactly. It was a great weekend for the MCLA, and this weekend has a lot of big games coming. We'll have a little preview for that later on our show. But moving on to our next mailbag, this one comes from Chris in Idaho. Last weekend was the first weekend with the new rules on display on a national stage. How do you think they played out?
Well, the biggest difference I saw was the pace of play. I thought that the quicker restarts and the lack of a 5-second goalie call, it really made a huge difference in the pace of play.
Exactly. I think the quicker restarts will have the biggest impact on the game. Everyone talked about quicker restarts coming from the sidelines and stuff, but where I think they're actually going to have the biggest impact on the game is from the inline. if you have an attackman who is able to beat his defender and keep his head up and look for a guy, you can catch defenders sleeping and really expose that.
Yeah, and teams like Loyola with two-way mids like Josh Hawkins are really going to benefit from the new rules too.
Hi, and welcome back. Let's keep the show rolling and get right back into our mailbag. Our next question comes from Laura in Oregon. There's some very compelling MCLA games this weekend. What are your guys' games of the week?
Well, I have to look at a game like Cal State Fullerton and San Diego State. I think with the loss of Cameron and Chris Cole for Fullerton, who had over 210 points last year, it's a huge number. I think that it should be interesting to see how Fullerton responds to the loss of them.
Exactly, that loss of the offense with the Cole brothers leaving will definitely affect Fullerton as they kind of made the jump into the top tier of MCLA Division II, and this year there's a lot of question marks hanging around that program. But my game of the week is Stanford hosting UCSB. It's an early season top 20 matchup in MCLA Division I, and I think it's a great opportunity for both teams to kind of prove where they are and prove to each other how good each other are. Stanford's looking to make the jump in the WCLL, kind of get up into the top tier, and UCSB has its highest preseason rating in a couple years, so they're looking to prove all the haters wrong, I guess, and prove that they're deserving of that top ranking.
Yeah, that should be a great game, but I have to look at a game like Boston College and Florida State out there in Florida. I think that Florida State is looking to bounce back from missing nationals last year, and with All-American midfielder Brian Anger, I think that they can do just that this year. And it should be interesting to see how a young Boston College team fares.
Exactly. That game will also be on LaxxTV, so make sure you check it out.
And our next mailbag question comes from Trevor in Arizona. Who are your MCLA preseason player of the year picks?
Exactly. Well, if you're talking MCLA Division I, you have to look at two players who will be facing off in the Saturday game that I talked about earlier between the UCSB Gauchos and Stanford Cardinal. From Stanford, you look at their attack, and Jack Farr. He's a two-time All-American, three-time All-WCLL. And he's an attackman that can do it all. He's a good shooter. He's a good feeder. He has very balanced numbers, and he's going to be the main reason Stanford makes it far in the WCLL and maybe even a trip to Greenville this year. And from UCSB, you look at their midfielder CJ Jacobs, who was named on the Lacrosse magazine preseason Player of the Year watch. He's another do-it-all type of guy. This time from the midfield. He's excellent. He's excellent in the clear game. He has a great shot on the run, and his spot-up shot is amazing. It's really hard, and most of the time he gets his hands free, it's going to go find the back of the net.
Yeah, and for my picks, I have to look at Tyler Novotny from Pittsburgh. I mean, he's a no-brainer for me. He transferred from St. John's, Division I St. John's 2 years ago, and last year he was a second-team All-American. He put up some pretty gaudy numbers last year, and he helped Pittsburgh to its first MCLA to its first nationals berth. I have to look at another player on the national championship team, Colorado State, Austin Fisher. I mean, last year he averaged 4 points a game. He had huge numbers in the tournament, and he was one of the main reasons that Colorado State won the national championship last year. And I look for him this year to have an even better year.
Exactly. It should be a great year at MCLA Division I. Moving on to our next question from our mailbag. It comes from Steve in California. He wants to know, where's the MCLA Division II love? And we're gonna do a little preview here, and I'm gonna start with St. Thomas. I think it's no surprise that they find themselves number one in the poll. MCLA Division II, much like MCLA Division I, there's not a lot of parity at top, but in the MCLA, in the Division II sector, it's much more exposed. They have the same teams make the Final Four every single year, and so St. Thomas won the national championship last year. I think they're a lock to get back to the Final Four this year, and if things go their way, I wouldn't be surprised to find them hoisting the national championship trophy again.
What's funny is I look at a team that lost to St. Thomas in the national championship last year, Grand Valley State. They lose Jack Dunza, who had 391 points in his career for the Lakers, but they return their next 6 scorers. And with first-team All-American goalkeeper Danny Kransberger returning, I think that Grand Valley State has a real chance at winning a national championship.
Exactly. The MCLA, like I talked about earlier in Division II, is almost as easy to predict as the San Diego weather. It's always sunny. But if there's a surprise team that may be able to sneak up on the field, I talked about it earlier, the Concordia Eagles. They're kind of a team that's been building for a couple years, slowly getting better and better. And they play a tough schedule this year. So yeah. I look out for them. It's gonna be a tough test in the regular season, but they should make the tournament. And they're a team that when you make the tournament, you don't want to see them on your schedule because they're a tough opponent, tough out, and I think they could definitely make some noise in MCLA Division II this year.
Yeah, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Casimir Moravsky.
And I'm Ryan Heydrich.
See you next week.